Hey everyone, it's your friendly grey-haired developer back again for another devlog number 3. Let's get into it. It's been a pretty crazy week with work, etc. I have managed to find a bit of time to actually do some work towards my next milestone. I've had a really nice week actually. I've spent quite a lot of quality time with the family and the animals. And yeah, the sun's been out shining, and it's almost as if there isn't anything going on in the outside world. I bet we all feel the same though, right? Let's get into this devlog. So during the last devlog, we set up our next milestone, which consisted of shooting, spawning, object pooling, and also the enemies. So I've made quite a bit of progress towards that, and I'm going to take you through those right now. So in our shooting task here, you see we had 2 items, main laser and alternate laser. Now I'm going to show you what that looks like in game right now. So as you can see, let's go ahead and click play and connect my controller. Oh, what's going on there? Okay, give me 1 minute. Okay, so act as if nothing happened. Let's try that again. So I'll hit play. Okay, and now you can see nice fluid movement as before. But now if I hit A on the control, we're going to shoot a single laser. And if I hit B on the control, we're now shooting a triple laser. They're the only 2 weapons I've put in right now. As you can see, I've got some spawning points for each of those projectiles. I have added some more spawning points on the left and right sides because that's going to be another weapon which I'll display in another video. But for now, those 2 fire options are working. So let's go ahead and change that back and run back to our Trello board. So main laser, alternate laser, check. Let's go ahead and move those into done. Now our spawn manager. Now I wanted to create a spawn manager with object pooling, and I wanted a spawner for the enemies, a spawner for any potential power-ups, and spawner for projectiles. So you've seen that we've done the spawner for projectiles from the actual player. Now the spawner for potential power-ups and the spawner for enemies are actually separate from the object pooling. So I want to actually move object pooling out of there because that is a big task on its own. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. And I'm just going to add that into my board as a separate task. So inside the spawn manager, spawner for enemies, spawner for potential power-ups, and spawner for projectiles. Let's have a look what that looks like. So if I just shrink this play window down a little and zoom out from there. Now if I go ahead and hit play here, you will see all of these spawners on the left, the right, and the top have spawned in place, all correctly aligned from where I actually want them to be. Now, I created a custom script to actually generate these, and I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to spawn manage containers. See, I've got a top spawn manager, a left spawn manager, and a right spawn manager. Top spawn, you can see I've got an array, well, a list of vector 2s. and I have an array of my spawn points, so I'll never I'll never create any more spawn points than that, so I can actually keep reusing those kind of like an object pool. And I've added a couple of extra things in there so that I could actually reuse it in future games. I'm a big believer in making things work for what you're working on now, but also try to make them extendable to work on something else in the future. So on this, I have things like spacing, where we can change the amount of spacing in between each individual item, how many spawns I want to spawn in. So if I go ahead and just change that value, for the top one, I'll change that to, let's change it to something crazy like 20. And if I hit play again, there you go. On the top now, you can see that there's actually 20 spawn points, and they are all correctly aligned, the exact same distance apart. So if I wanted to spawn 20 enemies, 20 power-ups, whatever I wanted to spawn from there, I could do it individually to each of those spawn points. I'm just going to change that back. In fact, I'll change that to 10. 10's a nicer number. Okay, and then we have the left spawn manager, which if I go ahead and if you take a look here, I've added a few options in there. I've put centered on axis, which means that if there's a for the is even count there, if there's an even number, that the centered on axis actually works. The first one will be in the center, but if it's an even number, then I can't have one in the center, then the rest spiraling off, because obviously it will be incorrectly aligned. So I spawn the first one just offset to the right a little bit, and then offset to the left, and so on out, so it is actually completely centered. If it's an odd number, then the first one initially gets centered directly in the center, and then the others spawn off from the same spacing point directly from there. I've added an extra point in here for centered on axis, so I've got vertical or horizontal are the items in here. Now you can see, if I go ahead and just hit play again, so you see the top, if I go into there, let's take a look at our items. See, centered on axis is horizontal, and you see it's an even number, so this is the dead center, and the first one is spawned just offset, and same with that one, and they're correctly aligned throughout. But the centered spread, so centered on axis is horizontal, and the centered spread is left to right. So what that means is we can have items to the left of it and to the right of it. And likewise, if you selected left here, the first one would appear on the left, and the rest would spawn in from that point just to the right. Likewise, from the right to the left. And then we've got these other ones up, down, and up. And if you look at the left spawn or the right spawn, we'll see that we've actually centered on axis is vertical. The centered spread is actually up, down. And you can see on the left-hand side here that they are actually as intended, up, down. And then I also have spawn direction. Now, spawn direction I'm going to be using when I actually spawn power-ups or I spawn enemies to say, how do I want them to come out? So because these spawns here are on the left-hand side, I want them to spawn from the left and come into the right. So spawn direction is left to right. And if I go into the right spawn manager, spawn direction is right to left. So that just makes sure that I've got complete control over the spawn points and what direction the enemy should actually be spawning from when they first get instantiated. So that is the spawner side of things. I haven't got anything spawning out of the right now. The object of this milestone was literally just to get the spawners ready to start spawning. So I feel like I've actually achieved that goal. So let's go back to our Trello board. And I'm going to move that over into done. So something else that I've been working on is it's actually really, really nice. I wanted to make the game look a bit more like a game, so that whilst I'm playing through it, it gives me that little bit of extra motivation to know what the final product's going to look like. Some people think that this is a bad thing. I actually think it's a good thing because it does spur me on, but for some people, getting to see the final product, if you like, before they've actually gone ahead and done all of the other fiddly little bits, it actually has a negative effect on them, and they lose interest in the game because they've seen what it's going to look like at the end. It has the opposite effect with myself. It actually spurs me on to do things. So what I actually did was I created a great little star field to go as the background to make things look a bit more realistic. So what I've done here is I have several star fields. I have a separate camera controller that's actually controlling the star field, so it actually looks like we're flying through space. I have some star fog, if we can call it that. I've called it atmosphere, so it's kind of just a little bit foggy, and I actually animate that as well just to give that little bit extra atmosphere or ambience. And I'm going to show you what this actually looks like in game. So let me go ahead, switch to Unity. Okay, so you can see my background here. We have starfield camera, we have a camera scroll controller, and we have a couple of starfields, a couple of atmosphere layers. Inside there we have several different layers inside. And let's hit play. Let me make sure I'm maximized. Oh, this is really cool. Excuse me. This is really cool. Let's take a look. Yay, does nothing. Okay, so just pretend you didn't see that again. I was messing about with a setting earlier. And it's still broken. Okay. Again, give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back, and that is the second time I fooled you. Okay, let's hit play and see this time that it's definitely going to work. Aha, beautiful. So, as you can see, we've got quite a few stars now on the screen. They're all emitted via particles. We have a moving camera that makes them look as if they are actually moving. And I have them set as a kind of parallax effect, so they're coming down. I've just noticed a little glitch here where the images aren't quite matching up. So I can do a little fix to that. But there's also some kind of atmosphere in the background that you can see that's just gently animated and just scrolling down as well. And I think it adds really, really nicely to the whole look and effect of the game. If I start shooting, you can see it's starting now to look like a much, much better game. So that's what I've worked on this week. Next week, or this next coming week, I'm going to be focusing on the actual object pooling to make sure that the enemies and the projectiles, I'm not going to be constantly spawning those. And if I just show you what I mean there, if I go into play again, I shouldn't have maximized on play. Go pause with that. Okay, so if I go ahead, I kind of feel like it's Friday the 13th today. What you won't realise is that I recorded a whole section of this video demonstrating the benefits of object pooling, only to get to the end of the recording and realise that in OBS, which is the software I use to do these videos, that I hadn't actually switched screens, so you couldn't actually see Unity on the screen at all. It was just a Trello board with me explaining things. So let's try it again for the benefit of you guys. You don't have to sit through all that. Here we go. This time it is on. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play. Now, the benefits of object pooling are as follows. If I just go ahead and start my controller again, when I go into here, I start shooting lasers. You can see that these lasers are getting added into the hierarchy every single time I hit fire. And if I do the same with the triple shot, see that even more are going to get added into there. So let me just make that larger. So if I scroll down here, you can see that there are a ton of game objects being spammed into the hierarchy. And what object pooling will allow me to do is it will allow me to set an amount of projectiles that get spawned at the very start of the game and constantly get reused as the game goes on. So I may have, for instance, 10 normal lasers that get spawned right at the start of the game. Instantiated right at the start of the game. And then they sit in a little pool. And then every time the user fires, he'll use one from the pool. Once it's destroyed by killing an enemy or going out of the screen, at that point, I can then, instead of destroying the object, I can then add it back to the pool as an active projectile and change the position ready for the next time that it gets fired. So it just means that as far as memory management and performance goes, I'm able to specify how much my game is actually going to use at the start of the game rather than based on the user input. So if user input 5,000 projectiles, as it stands right now, all of those projectiles will just constantly add into the memory. And that will be the exact same thing for enemies and our power-ups. So I'll just be able to keep consistent memory and performance throughout the game. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on next time. Let's just go back. So again, I just want to thank everyone for their support since I started my channel. I'm new to YouTube videos. I feel like I'm getting better talking to the camera. It's actually a really hard thing to do. You'll think that you're able to just kind of get in front of a camera and start talking and moving things around on the screen, but it's actually not as easy as it looks. So I'm learning things. I'm getting better. My talks are going to get less monotonous. I watch back some of my videos and I already know that sometimes they go on a bit, but like I am now. But I'll get better, and my explanations will get better, and my screen time will be more beneficial to you all going forward. So I do have a lot of series planned for this channel, including the survival horror series, including a racing series, and a 8-ball pool series. So please do keep watching. Go ahead, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of any new releases. And yeah, thanks very much for the support so far. You're all great.